She was a wonderful gal. She was all about everybody else. She was very beautiful. It's just a picture that is important to me, has been all my life, because it was the first picture that was taken of us. My wife was involved in an accident, a fatal accident, in 1968. I never married again, and I don't suppose I ever will now.
Probably Saturday afternoon, because that's when I usually got sicked up in downtown and looking for action. Well, I was wearing my Benny, what we called a Benny in those days, the long overcoat, and the shiny banana-toed shoes, the high-waisted drapes, as we used to call them. And, of course, the thin tie, that was the thing in those days. I spent 5 years in residential school, and of course you were dressed like you were going to a concentration camp. And I promised myself, I said, I'm going to have the fanciest clothes, the shiniest shoes, and the longest hair that I can. Nobody's going to stop me.
The two of us walking down Granville Street, pretty close to the Orpheum Theater. I always wanted to make my life with him.
I ended the relationship. She was very upset.
When I was 39 and he was like 41 or 42, there was a get-together.
She was there. We danced. I said, "Are you happy?" And she said, "No." I said, "Neither am I. Here's my card." And we've been together now for 33 years. That was our invitation to our wedding.
My mother, Nell Grant, raised my sister and I in a boarding house that was located where the library is now on Georgia. One room, Mother, Mary, and I, we all lived in that room. My mother worked nights. She worked at housekeeping and cooking and things that she knew what to do. She was a very strong woman, hard to live with. And when she said, "Do it," you did it.
We lived in the West End, right, and used to shop downtown all the time. And Fonzie was always on all those streets, so we must have had our pictures taken, I don't know how many dozens of times. And then some of the people that my parents know, they would give them pictures, but they were always in like a shoebox. And then after my parents passed away, I thought, well, I got to organize these things because they need organization. Once I got the bug and I did it, I thought, well, I got to do more. That was fun. So that took 6 months and filled 26 volumes. We keep the family photo albums in a fireproof safe because we think they're that valuable.
The Commodore was wonderful. We used to go often. They always had big bands, and we'd go to the Commodore and dance. We were so innocent. We were incredibly innocent. The guys knew the rules, the girls knew the rules. I mean, the idea of somebody touching you below the waist, I mean, you didn't do that. He was my friend, and I met him at high school and dated him all the way through university and was sure I was going to marry him. But he had decided that he was gay. So that was the end of my hopes for marriage.
We were prairie boys from Coaldale, ended up here, started with the CPR steamships. So sailing to Alaska, they'd play Stook, I think. I'm not a gambler. When I was down to my last, probably 50 cents or $1. And then I started winning, and I think I won maybe $50. And so I never gambled again, but I bought that suit out of the winnings.
My father-in-law had the Brett's chocolates. He imported special fillings, and then they hand-rolled all the chocolates. But he had to charge too much. And, of course, the cheaper chocolates came out, which were sort of assembly line, and that did him out of business.
Every so often I would go with my mother shopping from North Vancouver. To go to Vancouver, we always call it going over town. Woodward's department store on Hastings Street, it was the store for the working class people. Once a month, Woodward's had a 95-cent day. My mother loved English china. Over many 95-cent days, she managed to buy a dinner set, one piece at a time.
I tell you, I met Foncie through the retail business. I had a store in Hastings, and one day he would have his camera on Hastings opposite the cenotaph, and had a little chat, got to know him. The thing I liked about him is he was not just a photographer, he was a personality on the street. People would know him, they'd stop to talk to him, he'd get to know their names. He just snapped, he knew what he was doing. No, if he can take my face and make it look good, then he's a professional photographer, you know.
Everyone went downtown in those days, and we were dressed up. We wore coats and jewelry and big long earrings and high heels. We wore hats sometimes, too, and gloves. You know, you just don't do that now much.
These pictures are from the time I was 17 until the time I was 25. A young woman trying to find out who she was. This last photo is my favorite. You can see from the smile on my face, that was in reaction to Foncie's smile. These photos represent a time in my life when I went from wondering who I was to knowing who I was.
You could see people actually posing, you know, as they're walking down the street, you know, trying to look their sharpest. To have somebody taking your picture is sort of a thrill.
You know what the boys do, go to a bowling alley or go to a movie or hang out.
Granville Street was, there's stuff happening. We all had different ethnic backgrounds, but we all spoke the same language. You know, you wanted to bird dog some chicks and have a beer with your buddies.
That was a time for cigarettes. Tom has a cigarette dangling out of his mouth.
think Roy was probably about 18 or 17, and Rudy was about 15. Being that they were smoking and they didn't want their mother to find out, they both cupped their hands, kept the cigarettes lit, and continued walking by and got a nice picture.
God, my dad was handsome. I was 15 years old, and my mom and dad brought me to Vancouver to look for a wedding dress. I was getting married that year. I think it was around 55 when we had to elect chief and council. In the old days, it was hereditary system, hey? And Dad was the elected chief of Phillips Island, the Mamlalaka. That's my dad, being a chief in a white man's world.
Farewell, my love, until we meet tomorrow. Let's leave the night and its delight to stars above. Farewell, my love, let's trade our hearts and borrow each other's dreams, each other's schemes, each other's love. One kiss to guide you while I'm not beside you, and one more fond caress for happiness. Farewell, my love, a smile will greet tomorrow, and so I'll say till dawn of day, farewell, my love.
When my dad was sent overseas, they had only just been married a short period of time. He worked and saved up, and he surprised my mom by buying her that coat. And he said, "This is to keep you warm while I'm away." She was so sad. She was just beside herself. He wrote many, many letters. They just couldn't wait to be together. And they had a long, wonderful, happy marriage.